Hello everyone. Today I'll be talking about 3 mistakes that beginners make when they buy arrows. The very first one, they look for the cheapest option. So I often get requests where beginners come to me and they try to look for the cheapest they can find, particular fiberglass arrows, which is going for really cheap. So I often will try to advise them against fiberglass arrows because it's really shitty. I'll give them some option of something that's better but is affordable. But they often give me this as a reason. I'm still a beginner and therefore I'll look for the cheapest arrow, and when I get better, I'll buy something else. Now, it kind of sounds logical, right? But think about it this way. Let's say I drive a petrol car, and in my country, diesel is actually cheaper than petrol. So does it make any sense if I say I'm gonna pump diesel first until I get good at driving? Make any sense? No, right? Doesn't make any sense. So it's the same with archery. You should at least get something that is maybe not the best, but something that works reasonably, something that works decent, so that you can experience a fair or a decent experience in your archery. If you buy something that's really totally trash, your entire archery experience is trash. Okay. Secondly, to follow what others use. Now, think about this way. In Chinese, we actually have a saying. It's gonna sound a little bit rude, but I just want to give you an idea, right? Just give you an idea. It goes like this. Every day, many people are dying. Why don't you follow? So you kind of get the idea, right? So there are things that just because someone else is doing doesn't mean you have to follow. If it doesn't make sense, don't follow. So oftentimes when people buy, okay, beginner, when they buy arrows, they heard something from their friend. Oh, this particular brand is widely used by someone, or that particular brand or that particular design is used by someone. But you have to at least do some due diligence. Maybe go Google, maybe go YouTube. That's like everyone does that. Or just find out, talk to the seller or talk to the arrow maker, ask them why. What makes their arrow better than others? So you want to find out why before you buy. For example, now this one is actually very common. I get this a lot. Buyers, beginners, they will ask me, can I make the arrows such that the feathers are forward? They want to have a lot of space here, 4 inches of it, because they saw a friend of mine, and he is very good in archery. He holds his arrows like this, and so he wants a lot of space here. But dude, you have to understand, when you move this fletch forward, it actually destabilizes the arrow. The further back the fletch is, the more stable it is. The further forward it is, the less stable it is. Have you seen any rocket or missiles where the fin at the back is shifted forward? No, right? Never, because it destabilizes the projectile. So if you want to do it, you have to understand why first. My friend who does that, he has been training with archery for a long time and he's really good at it. So even if you give him an arrow without fletch, he's going to be doing good. But as a beginner, and you're shooting all over the place, you want to destabilize your arrow? Doesn't make any sense. The next one, there are a lot of, I don't know why, but a lot of beginners, okay, this is the third one. A lot of beginners come to me and they have this idea of, I want to buy cheap natural arrows, like wood arrows, bamboo arrows. I'm looking for the cheap bamboo arrows or cheap wood arrows. I don't know why, but somehow I got this feeling they thought that there is this arrow seed that they just put into the soil, put water, and then it grows into arrow tree, and then these arrows just grow out of the tree and fall on the ground with the points, the shaft, and all the feathers attached to it. Somehow they got this idea that there's this cheap natural arrows. Now let me clear this misconception. Natural arrows, especially a fair, decent one, won't be cheap because someone has to chop the tree, someone has to saw them into timber, convert them into smaller pieces, and then shave them down into shafts. Someone else has to make the points, attach them, the fletching, and all this require professional work, professional skills. And that's even more for bamboo arrows, because bamboo arrows, you do not manufacture them to the specification. They grow naturally. You have to harvest a lot of it and then sort them by diameter, by the wall thickness, by the spine, by the weight, and all this stuff. Even the nodes of the bamboo, you have to sort them so that you get arrows that are tight in tolerance. That's a lot of work. As a result, if you want to get good bamboo arrows, it's not going to be cheap. And the same thing, if you want to get good wood arrows, it's not going to be cheap, because the cheap ones, especially China made mass-produced wood arrows and bamboo arrows, I can tell you very honestly, they are trash. They are trash. All right. For example, sometimes you might get caught in the idea of a brass point. Looks nice, beautiful, but brass is really soft and they get damaged very easily. Usually they are in the form of a glue-on point. When upon impact, usually the back of the natural arrow will just break off. What you want to look for are those tanged points, those with long tang that goes into the arrow and then they wrap it with either threads or sinew. Those are the ones you want to look for durable. You also maybe want to look for something special. Maybe the arrowsmith would use footing on their arrows, or they maybe compress the fiber of the wood so that they are more durable. But China-made arrows, they don't have most of this stuff. They would use some really trashy wood quality, particularly pine wood. They are super fragile. The spine tolerance is just off. It's so bad. For example, if you ask for 500 spine, they might give you 700. That's ridiculous. Then the weight tolerance is just all over the place. The straightness is not there. It's just trash. And when you shoot them, they are super fragile. Let me explain to you why. For beginners, I actually don't recommend to use natural arrows. Okay, I'm holding a carbon one here. Let me take a... Okay, now this is natural bamboo arrow. Now, natural arrows are actually fragile because for a beginner, when you shoot, usually your technique is not all that good, so your arrow tend to go fishtailing or porpoising. It won't impact the target perpendicularly. Usually it kicks one side or the other. When that happens, especially at short distance, it's gonna cause it to go like this, and the weight of the shaft is gonna cause a bending and break your shaft. And that's why I said just now, natural arrows are fragile, and it's worse if you are a beginner handling natural arrows. Now you might say that, okay, then how do you fix this fragileness of these arrows? Well, you can shoot further. if you shoot further, there's time for the arrow to stabilize. Once it's stabilized, it's going to hit perpendicularly. But the problem is, if you are a beginner, you may not have the kind of consistency, the grouping required to hit your target at a further distance. So that means you're going to miss the target entirely and hit something else like rocks, stones, the wall or steel pipes, something else. You're going to hit something else and break the arrow. So if you are a beginner, my personal advice, go with carbon. Carbon is really durable, very forgiving, and for the same price, you don't have to buy the premium carbon arrows. You can buy some cheap carbon arrows. But carbon arrows in general, for the same price, you can get decent specification, decent spine tolerance, decent weight tolerance, decent straightness. May not be the best, but again, for that price, usually for the same price as a wood arrow and all that, you can get decent specification. That's if you're on a budget. And if you want something better, you can always ask different brands. There are something that's even more durable, maybe better tolerances, they can shoot better. So that's about it. For beginners, please think about what you buy.